Natural Earth Project.
We've really got to decide who does what for our Natural Earth project.
OK, Alice. Well, we've got all our cloud research, so let's decide how to break it down.
Well, we should probably start by saying how clouds are formed.
Good idea. And then maybe move on to the different types of clouds. We can separate it into low-lying, medium-level and high clouds. They seem to be the clearest categories. What do you think, Jenny?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. And we should also make a PowerPoint to make it a bit more interesting and put in pictures of the different clouds.
Good idea, Jenny. I think we should probably have cue cards too. I'm useless at remembering what to say without them.
Yes, me too. Well, I'm quite happy to organise everything we've found out about clouds and make sure it fits into our presentation times.
Actually, I think I'd better do that. I've got all the research on my computer, so it makes sense. How about if you make the presentation slides, Carl?
OK, Alice, that's fine by me.
Well, if you guys are going to do that, then I'll look on the internet for pictures of the different types of clouds.
That'll be great, Jenny. I'll also make the prompt cards so we don't forget what we're saying during the presentation.
Sounds great. Let's have a run-through on Tuesday. What sections does everyone want to talk about? I don't really mind.
Oh, I hate speaking in front of people, so I'd prefer not to do the introduction.
I don't mind. I'll do that. If you don't want to talk much, then why don't you just do the middle bit about the medium-level clouds?
Yes, I can do the low-level and high-level clouds parts. I'm sure Jenny can handle the summarising too.
Oh, thanks, guys. We can all take questions together.
Acid rain.
Hi, Roger.
Debbie, hi. I haven't seen you all week. How are you?
Oh, I've been struggling with my Natural Earth assignment. We did our presentation last week on dangers to the environment, but the essay's proven to be a lot more difficult.
The one for Professor Black? Me too. I'm writing about volcanic activity. What are you doing yours on?
Acid rain. I thought that would be okay, but the process is really complicated.
Well, I can help you with that. I know quite a lot about acid rain. I studied the causes and effects last year.
Really? Oh, that's great. I've done some work on the causes. I'm going to write that acid rain is caused by sulfur dioxide from power plants and smelters. Basically, this reacts in the atmosphere to form acid rain.
But it's not just sulfur dioxide, it's also nitrogen oxides.
Really?
Yes, from things like car exhausts.
But aren't nitrogen oxides also caused by natural events like fires, volcanoes, lightning too?
Yes, they're a minor factor, but I still think they're worth mentioning. But, sorry, carry on.
Thanks. I might add that. So, anyway, these emissions react in the atmosphere with water, oxygen and oxidants to form acidic compounds like sulfuric acid. These compounds then fall to Earth.
Are you going to mention the different ways they return to the ground?
Do you mean wet and dry deposition?
Yes. So, you've done a bit of background reading then.
Yes. So, if I've got it right, acid rain often comes down as rain, but also as snow or fog. This is wet deposition. I'm going to define it as any form of precipitation that removes acids from the atmosphere.
Yes, I think that's a good term to define it.
Dry deposition. Well, I think that's when the pollutants stick to the ground through dust. I'm not really sure of how to define it though, compared to wet deposition.
Just think of it as any pollutants that are not caused through precipitation. That's probably the best way. Did you know that sunlight can enhance the effects of acid rain as well?
No, I didn't. There is just so much to think about. I'm sure I'll go over my word limit.
Well, you sound like you know a lot about the subject. Just try and keep your focus. I've had the same problem writing about volcanoes. There is just so much.
Lightning.
Do you want to make a start on our Natural Earth project? I think our idea of a lightning safety presentation is great, don't you, Rachel?
Yes, I think it'll be really good. I think the class will really like the practical elements. I have a few ideas already.
Great, me too. I think we should divide it into 2 parts. What to do if you're inside when lightning strikes, and what to do if you're outside when it strikes. What do you think?
I think that's good, but I think we need more. Something about planning for this kind of event. I think it's quite important to be prepared. And also what to do if someone gets hit by lightning.
I can't believe I forgot that. Of course. Well, what should we talk about in the first part?
I think we should say it's important to be aware. Lightning is always before rain, so don't wait until it rains. As soon as you hear thunder or lightning, you should get inside.
Okay, yes. And then if you're indoors, you should avoid water. Stay away from doors and windows and don't use the telephone.
Or any electrical equipment. In fact, if you can, switch them off first. And you should wait half an hour after the last clap of thunder before going back outside.
And if you're outside when it storms, you also need to avoid water. Try and get inside as soon as possible. There are certain things you should avoid. Open spaces, anything large and made of metal, and of course, the obvious one, trees.
But we should mention that if lightning strikes very near you, you need to crouch down.
Oh, is that right? I thought you had to stand still.
No, that's actually wrong. You're supposed to crouch down.
And put your hands over your ears. The noise can damage your hearing if you don't. Okay, I think we've got quite a lot here. Only the last part to go. Now, what to do if someone gets hit?
I think we should say that it's very rare for someone to get hit by lightning. Our talk sounds as if there is danger all around. We should try and make it sound a bit more reassuring.
Yes, you're right. We'll say it doesn't happen often and that sometimes storms are even fun. It's just better to be safe than sorry. But what should we say about getting hit by lightning?
Well, I think we should say it's safe to touch people who've been hit by lightning. They don't have any electrical charge. Try to get assistance from a first aider if there's one around. Otherwise, it's just best to call for an ambulance. And we should remind our audience that 80% of lightning victims don't get fatally injured. That should calm everyone's nerves.
Extreme weather events.
So, I think we'd better start planning what we're going to do for our group project. Have you guys had any ideas?
I was thinking we should do something on extreme weather events and explain them, but I think Alex had some different ideas.
Yes, maybe we should look into more localised weather conditions and the effects on the immediate environment.
That's a good idea, Alex. But I don't think we'd be able to get much data on that, and we don't really have time to do our own research. What about doing something about the seasons?
I think the seasons might be a bit too wide-reaching, you know? When we take into account the wind patterns and pressure systems.
Maybe you're right.
Well, how about Tom's idea of extreme weather conditions?
Yes, that sounds like a good idea. It's easy to break down into separate parts, and it certainly sounds more interesting.
I'd quite like to cover monsoons. I've been doing some reading on them, and they're quite interesting.
Well, that sounds good. We should maybe take 2 areas each. That would make it easier for us to focus.
Well, we've got lots to choose from. We could do blizzards, heat waves, droughts, cyclones. There are loads. Why don't you do blizzards, Tom?
I don't fancy doing them, but I wouldn't mind doing something on floods. They're linked to monsoons, I think, so it will be an easy transition. What do you fancy doing, Alex?
Well, okay, let's leave blizzards then, if no one is interested. I could cover winds.
But that isn't really extreme enough.
I could do hurricanes. They're pretty exciting. How about doing cyclones, Emma?
I'd rather do heat waves and droughts, I think. I know a bit about them. I don't know anything about cyclones.
Oh, cyclones are really interesting. I can cover them.
That sounds great. I was thinking about doing cyclones, but I'm happy for you to do them.
Right, shall we get started on some of the content?
That's a good idea. We haven't got that much time. Does anyone know anything about their topics?
I know quite a lot about cyclones.
Do you?
Well, I studied them at high school too. You know, cyclones usually start near the equator. They need quite warm water to form. Above the warm water, the vapour in the air forms clouds, and if there is low pressure, then these clouds will start to rotate.
Isn't it also the fact that the Earth rotates too, which makes the clouds spin more?
Yes, that too. Once they begin, they can either lose momentum or keep gathering momentum until they hit land. These ones are called mature cyclones. Luckily, as soon as they hit land, they start to lose momentum and fade away, just because they don't have the warmth of the ocean underneath.
Well, that's a relief.
They can still be really destructive. It's like a big circle of wind. They blow strongly up to the eye of the storm, the centre, where everything is really quiet, where there's no wind or anything. But then the other side hits and the winds blow just as strongly, but in the other direction. It's just amazing. Yes, I would really like to cover that.
Well, it looks like we've got it all arranged then.
Alternative Energy Research Project.
Hi, James. How's your alternative energy project going?
To be honest, I'm confused about how to do the research for the different energy types.
Well, the first thing is to make sure you focus your question. Otherwise, you'll have too much to read and you won't be able to select the key arguments.
So, how do I do that?
Start with the general topic of alternative energy and then keep asking questions until you've narrowed the topic down to one particular area. Then, when you have your question, make a list of the reading you will need. This list should be general to give you some background, but remember you'll need to focus on the issues related to the question. So the reading list should also be specific to the actual energy source you've chosen, whether it's wind or solar or wave power.
And then start reading.
Absolutely. You need to start reading straight away. But don't forget to make notes as you read, otherwise you won't be able to keep track of ideas for future reference purposes.
Yes, that makes sense. I think that's my main problem. I don't recall where I've read different ideas, so I can't find them again later. And my friends have warned me that not recording ideas in a system can really hinder your progress.
Your friends are right. You definitely need some kind of system. You need to organise everything well so that you can analyse and think about what you've read.
But I prefer to just start reading and then go back and edit my work later.
I wouldn't recommend it. I think you need to give yourself more time to digest the material and analyse it in terms of relevance to your research question.
Well, that's a great help. Thank you, Professor Jenkins.
You're welcome. Come and see me again if you have any more problems.
Mary's essay.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, John. How's your essay going?
Not so good, actually. Would you be able to help me with it?
Of course. What do you want to know?
Well, just the type of information you're going to write about. I won't copy you. I just want some ideas to get me started.
Well, Mr. Jones advised us to focus on only 2 or 3 forms of non-traditional energy for our evaluation. So I think I'm going to choose solar. It's fairly easy to evaluate.
Are you going to explain both the positive and negative aspects?
Well, Mr. Jones warned us not to get too involved in the ethical aspects of the topic. So I'm going to structure my essay by using the advantages and disadvantages of each energy form. That's why I also want to talk about biofuels. I think there are more disadvantages.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Using the negative points of one to highlight the positive points of the other. That's a smart idea. And what about your third energy source?
I was having difficulty choosing between nuclear and wind because they're both problematic. But I've decided to do nuclear.
Oh, thanks, Mary. Chatting to you has helped me think a bit more clearly about my essay.
That's fine. Good luck with it.
Environmental science presentation.
Hi there, guys. Nice to see you.
And you. So, are we going to finalise what we're doing for the environmental science presentation today?
I hope so. The presentation is next week.
Actually, I wanted to talk to you about this because I think we need to take out some of the information we're including.
Oh, really? Like what, Shirley?
Well, I'd like to suggest taking out the background details. I think it's just too much information to fit into 10 minutes.
But isn't it important to make sure the audience understands the context?
I don't think so. And anyway, we could include the background details on the handout.
OK, I'm with you on that. Chris, what do you think?
Yes, OK, that's fine. I'll add the details to the handout. Anything else?
Yes. I'm not sure whether the solar energy statistics will be too much for the audience to take in. There are a lot of numbers and graphs. Can we put the statistics on a handout too?
I see your point. We don't want people looking at lots of numbers while we're speaking.
But without the statistics, I don't see how we can support our main ideas.
Actually, you're right, Tom. I hadn't thought about that. In that case, can we delete the diagrams? It's going to take too much time to explain them.
Let's think about that a bit more. If we have to choose between taking out the statistics or the diagrams, I think we should opt for the diagrams. They're less crucial to the presentation. What do you both think?
I think it's going to work much better than the original plan we had.
Absolutely. We won't have to worry about talking for longer than 15 minutes if we remove the diagrams and focus on the main ideas and statistics. Shall we all meet again tomorrow to finalise the details?
Alternative energy.
Hi everyone. Sorry I'm late.
Don't worry, Hannah. We've only just started. We thought we should go over the theories we've studied so far on the course, so we're ready for the seminar discussion on Thursday afternoon.
Of course, you're right. I don't think I can remember all the theories related to consumer energy consumption.
No, Hannah, that's the reading for Friday's lecture. Thursday's seminar discussion is about the current thinking on alternative energy.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. I'm a bit disorganised at the moment.
Never mind. So, Mike, what do you think about the academics' points of view on nuclear energy?
Well, I think I have to agree with them on price being a factor for choosing nuclear in the long term.
Me too. It's definitely the most cost-effective measure. Don't you agree, Hannah?
To start with, I didn't. But the text Professor Edwards gave us persuaded me. The only thing that concerns me is that there have been some disasters in various parts of the world.
Yes, some of the texts warn of the dangers of nuclear power, using previous disasters as examples.
I know what you mean, but I suppose the risk is minimal these days. What do you think about wind and solar energy in terms of the price in relation to the advantages? For me, they're just not worth it. Both are expensive, and it's difficult to predict the amount of energy each one will produce.
You know, Mike, I'm afraid I don't share your opinion. This text here talks about the likelihood of improved technology increasing the amount of energy and reducing the costs in the future.
Yes, but there's not enough proof to be sure of the relationship between the cost and the benefits.
Exactly. The evidence seems incomplete to me.
Well, that's something we can follow up on with the rest of the group in the seminar on Thursday.
Renewable energy sources.
Good morning, Phil, Jackie. I hope your project is going well.
Morning, Mr. Jackson.
Hi, Mr. Jackson. Well, we've made a start on analysing the different forms of renewable energy, but unfortunately, we don't agree on some points.
Okay, why don't we talk about it?
Well, Jackie believes that all forms of renewable energy are beneficial economically, whereas I doubt that that's true for all forms.
Such as?
Such as wind, wave and solar, because they aren't always constant and so they become less reliable.
That's a valid point. But I don't think that's a large enough factor to disregard it completely.
Exactly. That's what I said.
However, another drawback is that they're generally very expensive to produce.
Yes, you're right. And that is a concern when evaluating their usefulness in the future.
I agree with you to a point, but it's likely that the cost will come down. I read a report in the Journal of Environmental Science that estimated the cost would fall by 20% over the next 10 years, which is significant, isn't it?
Absolutely, Jackie. But you need to think about how difficult it is to predict the cost of non-traditional energy sources before you believe the report. Remember, in your project, I want to see evidence of critical analysis. Make sure you've analysed all the information rather than just accepting the information that you agree with. Also, it's important that you demonstrate that you have read widely around the subject.
I know. It's just that I'm not convinced it's going to continue to be that expensive, especially if there's a demand from consumers.
Well, what about if we analyse the costing process as part of our project?
That's an excellent idea, Phil. OK, so let's imagine that we want to forecast the cost of producing solar energy. How could we do that, Jackie?
Well, I think we'd have to start by working out how many hours of daylight there are in the UK per year.
The Meteorological Office would have data on that.
Then estimate the number of hours of sun to get a rough total.
And then, I suppose, we'd need to work out how much it would cost to supply the average home with solar power, and then work from that to get a number for the whole country.
Good. And don't forget the price of power conversion stations. This will have a significant impact on overall expenditure. And there's one more factor you haven't taken into account yet, regarding the consumers.
Whether they would change from traditional to renewable energy?
No, but think about what might make them change.
Oh, yes. How much they'd be willing to pay.
Exactly. Well done.
So, our project is going to cover three main areas. Firstly, comparing the main forms of alternative energy, solar, wind, wave and biofuels in terms of production costs. Secondly, we'll take solar as an example and do a cost prediction. And last, we'll analyse whether they're likely to replace traditional fossil fuels in the future.
That sounds like a comprehensive project with a good focus. Now, what data are you going to use and what approach will you use for the analysis?
Now that's something we do agree on. We want to use the reports you gave us in our last lecture and some statistics from the government's Environment and Energy Department. In terms of analysis, we're going to use a cross-referencing method where we compare each of the government reports with the Robertson report and highlight any differences. Then we'll analyse these to see why the differences exist and where more research needs to be done.
Steve's holiday plans. Listen and practice.
Hey, Jenny.
Oh, hi, Steve. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. How's it going?
Fine, thanks. I'm so glad the exams have finished.
Oh, me too. So, are you going on holiday this summer?
Yes, I've decided to go to Mexico for the whole summer vacation. I cannot wait. I'll be there for 6 weeks in total.
That sounds great. What are you going to do there?
Well, actually, it's a working holiday. I'm going to work at a school teaching English to children. What about you? Do you have any plans?
Yes, I'm going for a short break to Paris in August.
Are you going with your family?
No, I'm going with my best friend, and we've enrolled in a language school to study French for 2 weeks.
That sounds like fun. Have a good trip.
You too.
Conversation 2. Booking room.
Track 2.
Good afternoon, Royal Mount Hotel. How may I help you?
Hello. I'd like to book a twin room, please, for next week.
1 minute, please. I'll just check if we have one available. Yes, we do, sir. Now, I just need to take a few details, if I may.
Yes, of course.
What name is the booking under?
My name, Duncan Jeffrey. That's Geoffrey.
Geoffrey. And could I have a contact telephone number, please?
Yes, 5762 23821.
When will you be arriving, sir?
Sometime on the evening of the 19th.
Okay, September 19th.
Yes, and we'll be leaving on the 23rd of September. How much will that be in total?
So that's a twin room. For a twin, it would normally be £235 in total, but I can give you a special rate as it's low season. £210 for the 6 nights.
Great, thank you.
And how would you like to pay for that? We accept cash, bank transfer, or credit cards.
I'll pay cash on arrival, if that's okay.
Of course, sir. We look forward to seeing you.
Conversation 3. Hotel facilities.
Track 3.
So, what are the differences between these 4 hotels?
Well, the main difference is in the types of facilities they offer. The Hotel Sunshine is the only one which has a gym, and it has one of the top health spas in the area. It's also next to a lake, so you can do water sports there. Actually, if you like sailing or water skiing, then the Highland Hotel would probably be the best place, because it's got instruction programs in these sports.
Actually, I'm not really a sporty person.
OK, well, what about the Hotel Carminia, which prides itself on its brand new cinema and a state-of-the-art games room? And then there's the Royal, which offers guests a conference room, a meeting room, and free computer access. But it's not really appropriate for children, as there's not much in the way of entertainment.
Well, I'm going on holiday, not to work, and it's just my wife and me, so I think we'll take the Hotel Carminia, please.
John and Sam's holiday. Listen and practice.
So there's a great walking tour tomorrow, or tomorrow night we could go on the cruise around the harbour. What do you think, John?
Well, we've booked those theatre tickets for tonight, so we'll be quite tired for the walking tour tomorrow. I don't think it would be a good idea. But I don't fancy the cruise either.
Why not? It'll be fun. Look, it's a dinner cruise, and it's only $12 each. It's a bargain.
I hate the sea. I'll be sick with fear if the waves are big. And dinner on a boat? Oh, I just couldn't.
But it's just in the harbour.
Still, but what about this? It's a bus tour tomorrow evening. It's only $5.50 and it goes all around the main tourist sites.
Yeah, that sounds okay.
Where shall we eat tonight?
Well, there are plenty of options. The guide says this city has hundreds of restaurants and food from all over the world. What kind of food would you like to have, John?
Well, I quite like seafood. There's the Captain's Table on Firth Street. The guide gives it 4 stars.
I don't know about that one. The hotel receptionist told me the service is incredibly slow sometimes. But if you like seafood, there are a couple more places in the guide.
Ah, yes. Mangan's or Joe's Cafe.
Mangan's could be a good option. It's nicer than Joe's Cafe, and there are fantastic views as well. We'd probably pay a bit extra. Joe's Cafe is much cheaper, but we're on holiday. I don't think we should worry about the cost.
Well, that sounds great. Oh, no, hold on. It's closed tonight.
Oh.
What a shame. Shall we go to Joe's Cafe then, Sam?
Yes, I suppose we'll have to. I'll give them a call and book a table. Can I use your phone, John?
Oh, no, sorry. My phone has run out of battery. We can ask the hotel receptionist to do it. Let's go back now and sort it out. We can get changed and have a drink before dinner if you like.
OK, good idea.
City bus tour booking form.
Hello, how can I help you?
Hello. Is it possible to book one of the bus tours of the city here?
Of course, sir. Would you like the 3-hour tour with an audio guide or the shorter 2-hour version with no audio guide?
I think the shorter 2-hour tour will be fine. We have a guidebook, so we don't need an audio guide.
OK, that's fine. When would you like to take the tour? There are tours in the morning, afternoon and evening. Sometimes it's nice to see the city at night with the buildings lit up.
We'd like to go this afternoon, as we'll be going out for dinner tonight. Oh, and it's for 2 people.
Right. Now, I just need to get some details from you in order to book the tickets. Can you give me the names of the 2 people, please?
Yes, Susan Field and James Carter.
Susan Field and James... Sorry, can you spell your surname for me, please?
It's C-A-R-T-E-R.
Thank you. And can I have a contact telephone number too?
Why do you need a contact number?
This is in case we have to cancel the tour for any reason and need to contact you.
I see. Well, my mobile number is 07988 636 197.
That's 07988 636 197. Now, can you also tell me which hotel you were staying at?
Yes, of course. We're staying at the Crest Hotel. Oh, no, sorry. That's the hotel we're staying in next week. It's the Riverside Hotel.
Oh, the Riverside is a lovely hotel. Are you enjoying your stay?
Yes, we are, very much. The hotel facilities are excellent, and the staff are very polite. We would definitely recommend it to others.
Oh, I am glad. Now, I can book you on the tour at 4 p.m. Would that suit you? Alternatively, there is another at 3.
The earlier one would be better for us, please.
Right, that's booked for you, sir. 2 people at 3 p.m. today, August the 14th. You pay the bus driver when you get on, and it's £15 per person. Please make sure you have the correct change, as the drivers don't carry cash.
Thank you very much.
Listen to a conversation and answer some questions.
Can I also ask you about the museum in the main square? I was reading about it in my guidebook and was shocked to see that the entrance price is £23. That seems very expensive to me. Do you know why it costs so much?
Well, the museum has the only collection of Latin American art in Europe, so it's quite unique, and people come from all over the world to see the collections and special exhibitions. But that's not the reason why it's so expensive to get in. You see, the building is so old that it has started to fall apart and needs repairing. The £23 ticket cost will go towards repairing the roof and the walls.
Ah, I understand. Well, I suppose it's worth paying £23 to see such an impressive collection.
Yes, I think so too. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Actually, there is. I was wondering if you knew of any good restaurants in the local area.
Well, there are a few restaurants near the harbour and a couple on the beach overlooking the sea, which are nice. The problem is that the smell of the fish market is quite strong down by the beach and in the harbour, so sometimes tourists don't like the atmosphere.
That doesn't sound so good. And I don't think my wife would be very pleased.
I know what you mean. It's not very romantic, is it? My advice would be to go to the next town. It's bigger and the restaurant selection is wider. You can get there by taxi and it only takes about 10 minutes. The town is quite picturesque and it's very relaxing because there are fewer tourists. Is it for a special occasion?
Yes, it's my wife's birthday, so I'd like to go somewhere a bit special. Do you know any of these restaurants well enough to tell me a bit more about any of them?
Well, I know a bit about a few of them, and there are pictures in this leaflet here. This one here is lovely, the Bellevue, and it's extremely popular. It has one of the most famous chefs in the country. It's not cheap, but the standard of the food is very high. It's right by the sea, and there are wonderful views if you get a good table. Then there's the Lighthouse Cafe. You can see the picture here, which is not really a cafe at all. In fact, it's a great restaurant which is frequented by TV celebrities and actors. It has a great reputation and looks very traditional inside. It's been running for over 100 years. It's quite an institution around here.
I'm not sure about those two. They sound a bit too expensive to me. I was thinking of somewhere small where the food is good quality, but that's not too formal.
In that case, what about Harvey's? It's a small family business. The same family has run this restaurant for over a century, and it's reasonably priced and really popular with local people. The furniture is kind of old-fashioned and rustic, so it might be more what you're looking for. And there is another family-run restaurant, Stonecroft House. New owners took over a month ago, and they're getting good reviews. There's a new chef there, and the food is meant to be very good quality, and they've redecorated the dining room and bar. This leaflet has all the contact details for all the restaurants, so you can just call them if you'd like to book a table.
Great, thanks. You've been very helpful.
The Health and Action Summer Camp.
The Health and Action Summer Camp is located in the county of Cork in Southern Ireland and is ideal for young people who would like to learn new sports and activities. It has a beautiful location, being situated near a river and occupies 5 acres of green space. There is a small forest within the campgrounds which provides a great habitat for wildlife. However, it is sufficiently far away from the accommodation so that human activity does not disturb the birds and animals. The camp has 2 types of accommodation, tents and cabins, both of which are modern and comfortable. The cabins are by the river and have beautiful views of all the countryside. And the tents are on higher ground, away from the river and next to the washrooms. There are 2 washroom blocks, fully equipped with showers as well as toilets. All cooking is done in the cooking area, which is situated in the centre of the camp.
Getting the Bronze Award.
The Duke of Edinburgh's Award is a programme of activities designed to help young people from all different backgrounds develop. There are 3 levels: bronze, silver and gold. And for each level, participants have to complete a series of activities in 4 categories: volunteering, physical, skills and expedition. This talk will explain what you have to do in order to get a Bronze Award. The first thing you need to do is find a Duke of Edinburgh centre near you. This could be your school, college or youth club. Then you will need to pay a small fee to enroll in the programme. Once you've enrolled, you will get a welcome pack, which explains the 4 categories in more detail. Then you can start planning what to do for each category. You can do many different types of activity for each category, but you must get them approved by your Duke of Edinburgh coordinator before you start, so you don't waste time doing something which is not approved. The other important person is your assessor. This is the person who will certify that you have completed each activity by signing your record book. After you have completed all the activities in the time given, your assessor will send your record book results to the operating authority, who will check it. If everything is satisfactory, you will get your certificate and badge to confirm you have completed the award. And after that, you can start working on the Silver Award.
Park Hill Teen Program.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to find out more about the new teen programme here at the Park Hill Leisure Centre. In this talk, I'd like to talk you through the classes available, describe the building itself, and then give you some information about how to register and sign up for the sports and activities we offer. Afterwards, you'll have an opportunity to take a tour of the centre. Let's go through the classes first. As you can see from the teen programme handout in your pack, we have lots of classes on offer. We have 4 new instructors who are highly qualified and have lots of experience training young people. Diana is our dance instructor, and she gives classes in jazz and salsa on Wednesday and Thursday evenings respectively. These classes are great fun, and if you like dancing, you'll love them. Now, let's move to the weekends. Jim usually takes the football practice sessions then, but this year he is branching out into American sports and will be running the baseball club on Saturday afternoons. So because Jim is doing the Saturday session, Steve will now run the football practice. This class will be at the same time as the baseball class, so Saturday. Steve will also take the skateboarding class on Monday evening. Lastly, there is a possible additional class, a roller skating course which is for beginners, and this will be taken by Stella, who was last year's under-21 London roller skating champion, so you'll be in good hands with her expert advice. The day of this course is still to be arranged, but it is likely to be Tuesday. We will confirm the day by the end of this week. I hope that some of you will be interested in these new classes. Please come and ask me or any of the instructors later for more information. And if you have any ideas about classes you would like to see run, let us know.
Park Hill Leisure Centre.
Now, some of you won't have been to Park Hill Leisure Centre before, so let me just tell you a little about the layout. As you can see, the reception area here is very spacious and there is plenty of room to meet your friends and have a drink. We also have great dance studios. They are to the left of the reception area, next to the swimming pool. No, sorry, I meant opposite the swimming pool. They're brand new and have floor-to-ceiling mirrors and the latest audio equipment. We hope they're going to be very popular. Both the roller skating and skateboarding classes will be held in the skate arena. This has also been refurbished and we have a new 5-metre ramp in there, which is proving to be quite popular. The arena is behind the changing rooms, which you can see straight in front of us. There are separate male and female areas to change in. On either side of the arena, there is also a gym and tennis courts. You'll see both these new spaces on the tour later.
How to join the Park Hill Leisure Centre.
Now, the final thing I want to talk about is how to join the Park Hill Leisure Centre and enroll for the classes. First, you need to complete an enrolment form with some of your personal details, including your address and telephone number and the name of your school. If you are under 16 years old, then you'll also be required to get your parents' permission to take part in the classes. Please ask one of your parents to sign the authorization form attached to the enrolment form. You'll find the form in your information pack. When you've done this, you just hand the forms to reception. You can pay an annual subscription of £20, or alternatively, you can pay each time you use the facilities. There is a £1.60 admission fee in this case. Whether you decide to pay in one go or with each visit, you still need to complete the forms in your pack and become a member. Once we have the forms, we'll send your membership card to your home address. All you need to do is show this card every time you come to the centre, and if you want to book a class, you just need your membership number on your card.
Living with parents.
As we have seen, changes in the structure of the family are constantly occurring. Extended to nuclear, patrifocal, to a more equal footing between the sexes, and dual parenting to single parenting are just a few examples. However, a recent phenomenon in the UK, which is changing the traditional family, is the increasing number of adults who continue to live with their parents until their 30s or sometimes even their 40s. The UK has traditionally been a society where offspring leave the family home in their late teens or early 20s to set up their own home and families. But in the last 25 years, this has decreased. Official statistics released by the Office of National Statistics show that today, 10% of men in their early 30s still live with their parents. This compares with 5% of women in this age range. The reasons for this are complex and varied. It cannot be denied that some people are choosing to stay. Living with parents can be an easy option. Food is provided, heating and electricity are paid for, and rent, if any, is minimal. However, a third of those surveyed claimed they were living with their parents because it is too difficult to get a foot on the property ladder. House prices in the last few decades have risen dramatically. Property is now 5 times the average annual salary, whereas it was only 3 times the average annual wage in the 1980s. This fact, coupled with high unemployment amongst young people, make it virtually impossible for a single person to buy a home or even rent. The number of students going on to higher education has also been steadily increasing. Many of these students return home after finishing their studies as a result of the student debt they have accumulated. It can take many years to pay this off, and if the burden of rent or a mortgage is added to that, it can be just too much for a young adult's pocket. However, help is now at hand. The government is tackling some of the problems that cause people to remain with their parents with a new scheme, the Affordable Housing Scheme. This aims to make housing more affordable for first-time buyers and possibly take the strain away from elderly parents.
A decrease in the number of offspring.
The family is a topic which we will look at in great detail this term. For sociologists, the family is often seen as the beginning of socialization. Indeed, it is the seed of society itself. In recent decades, many old people can no longer rely on their offspring for support, which was common 50 years ago. Many children are brought up by only one parent, something virtually unheard of before the 1960s. We can certainly say that during the last half-century, we have seen an enormous change in traditional family structures. The extended family lasted well into the early 1900s, and this kind of strong family unit was essential due to property ownership. Housing often was scarce, and it was necessary for people to live with parents and take over the property when their parents died. Of course, people still benefit from their family line. Still today, people generally inherit any money that their mother or father might have. In the UK, the last 50 years has also seen a decrease in the number of offspring parents have. Whereas in the 1950s, only 10% of offspring were only children, this number has risen. Nowadays, this is the case for just over a third of children.
In Victorian times.
In Victorian times, the upper classes made up less than 3% of the entire population of Britain, yet this class held more than 90% of the country's wealth. This shows the massive gap there was between rich and poor at this time, a gap which has shrunk considerably in the last century. Today, we're going to look at the wide differences in family life between rich and poor in Victorian times. Let's begin with the upper classes. The upper classes of the Victorian period were generally the nobility or the clergy. Most of their servants were very poorly paid, but were always accommodated within the homes of upper-class Victorian families, so they didn't have to pay for accommodation, food, and often clothing. The money which they did earn, they normally sent home to their families. Many Victorian servants came from the countryside, where the effects of the Industrial Revolution had resulted in job losses. Amongst these servants were cooks, housemaids, stable hands, and butlers. The family would also employ a nanny who, although employed by the family, was not traditionally seen as a servant. A nanny's primary role was to care for the children. She was responsible for teaching the children how to behave, looking after them when they were ill, and instilling discipline into them. Nannies did not, however, educate the children. Generally, children from wealthy families did not attend school outside the family home. Tutors would come to the house to do this, and although, on occasion, mothers taught their children to read, and fathers gave their children some instruction in Latin, this was not a common occurrence. Now, the Victorian upper classes have the reputation of being quite cruel, but this wasn't always the case. They were also quite charitable. Ragged schools were set up with funding from the upper classes so that poor children could have some form of education. Additionally, most Victorian parents were very proud of their children, who were often seen as prized possessions. This goes against the common idea that parents were very hard on their children. In fact, the opposite was generally the rule. However, the situation for lower-class families was very different. In the lower classes, child labour was rife. Children as young as 8 earned a living as chimney sweeps for wealthy houses. Now, let's move on to looking at the lower-class families in more detail.
Changes in family structures.
We are all familiar with the nuclear family, which has been the dominant family structure in the UK for the last 60 years at least. However, recent changes show that our idea of the traditional nuclear family as the cornerstone of British family life is changing. There have been emerging patterns which are eroding this structure, namely the rise of step families, cohabitation, lone parenting, and the rapid increase in those living alone. We're going to explore these areas in turn and look at their effect in terms of the family. First, step families are now becoming more and more common. Step families are created when one or both partners have a child or children from a previous relationship. In 1980, the percentage of children under 13 who were living with one parent and their new partner was just 4%. In 2008, this figure had increased to 20%. The USA has seen an even greater rise. New statistics show that almost half of under 13s are living in a step family. Now, we can still call the step family structure a nuclear family, as it does follow the structure of two parents and dependent children. However, it also creates somewhat of a nuclear blur. Step-brothers and sisters may belong to two family units, so where do we draw the line at which family they belong to? Cohabitation, when partners do not marry, yet live together as a family, has also increased. In 2006, of the 17.5 million families in Britain, nearly 3 million of these comprised unmarried couples. What does this mean to the nuclear family? Firstly, the traditional view of a nuclear family requires married parents, so we can't put these types of family under this umbrella. Statistics show that even if cohabiting couples have children, they are more likely to separate than their married equivalents. Lastly, we need to look at the rise of the DINKs, which stands for Dual Income No Kids. As Clark and Henwood outline, many cohabiting couples are choosing a life without children, putting consumer spending first. Lone parenting is a relatively recent family structure which has rapidly grown in the last half-century. In 1972, only 1 in 14 children lived in a lone parent's family. When we compare this with today's figure of 1 in 4, we can see that this is a rapid increase. In the past, lone parenthood was overwhelmingly the result of a death of a parent. Nowadays, however, it is increasingly a choice. Some sociologists argue that this increase is due to the outlook of women. Where women once were willing to accept an unhappy or abusive marriage, now many will choose lone parenthood. Often, this can be just a transitory phase before they find a new partner. This view of women's attitudes and lone parenting is highly debated because some figures show that the largest group of lone parents are mothers who have never married. So I would advise further research. You can find counter-arguments for these ideas in Butler and Jones. One difficulty for single parents is that they are a social group who are much more likely to suffer from poverty and hardship. They are more likely to live in rented accommodation and have childcare issues. Last, an increasing number of people are choosing to live alone. The number of people living alone in Britain has more than doubled in the last 20 years. In 1990, just over 4 million people lived alone. Now, this figure has reached 8.5 million, an incredibly rapid growth, which has had enormous effects on the traditional nuclear family. This number represents a great chunk of the population, who either by choice or necessity are outside the traditional family unit. Some think that these changes may not help the community. In fact, there are many arguments that this rise in living outside a family unit will create a more isolationist and less community-based society, where close bonds, which are usually formed within the family, have no place. Leaving aside whether or not the housing even exists for this boom, an important factor which must be looked at is the disproportionate expense for those living on their own. By this, I mean the burden of all costs is shouldered by one wage instead of two. And of course, one person is using the energy which could be shared between a group, having a great impact on the environment too. However, on a more positive note, people, especially women, are able to feel more independent and liberated than ever before. It's important to remember, though, that living alone may not always be a permanent state. Many women are delaying having children, choosing to spend some years on their own beforehand. This particular demographic may eventually join a nuclear family structure.